It's great to see you guys. I've been on vacation for 2 weeks and my wife dropped me off in Korea while she did the rest of her business trip and came and picked me up. I'm still not over. I went to sleep at 4 a.m. this morning and got up at 7. So I'm like, oh, but I feel pretty good. So if I don't make a lot of sense, it's all right. It's all right. It's good. I also want to thank Tony for leading our praise and worship today. Those of you who don't know, I've known Tony for like 25 years maybe. I'm not that old. Oh, yes, you are. I've known Tony when he was a pastor of another church, and we did, inner church stuff together, but now I'm so happy that he's leading worship for us. But and I don't know if Tony minds if I share this, but it hasn't been easy for Tony to lead worship. He's had throat surgery. And it's gone away, but recently something's come back. And so it's actually really difficult for him to lead praise. But he's up here leading praise for us anyway. And, to me, that really goes to show, when we're serving God, sometimes it's not the easiest thing, right? But sometimes we just work through it and do it. But I want to invite all of you guys to pray for Tony. What do you call it, like a node? It's like a node in your throat that's coming back. So he, whether he has to have surgery again or something, but, let's lift up Tony, Jackie. Because, when we're following Jesus, we have to work through some stuff, right? And which kind of goes along with, we've been looking at the Gospel of Luke. And 2 Sundays ago, Boston shared a message from chapter 14. And we're going to look at chapter 15 today, but kind of showing how the progression and the buildup has been going. Chapter 14 has been addressing what it means to be humble and what it means to live a humble life. And what we saw in chapter 14 is that Jesus gets invited to a banquet, and actually a pretty nice banquet, right? It's because it says he was the leader of the Pharisees. So it's going to be a good party. And all the rich people are there, high officials are there, and Jesus goes in. And sometimes, as Boston said, Jesus isn't he's not the person you want at some parties, because sometimes he's a little party pooper, right? He looks at all the people, and what does he say? Next slide shows, for all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Not the kind of thing you want to say when you got a party full of rich, high officials, right? And then he goes on, he goes, all right, we're all sitting here eating good food. We got all the big people, big wigs of the town here. And he goes, when you give a banquet, invite the poor and the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Oh my gosh, right? Can you imagine all the people in that party, what they must be thinking right now? And lots of people are following Jesus. And towards the end of chapter 14, Jesus turns to them and he says, whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. We're trying to follow you and you're telling us we can't follow if we don't carry it. What the heck are you trying to tell us? Right? And if that's not enough, he goes on and he says, therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all your possessions. I go, oh, what the heck? Isn't that a downer? And even for us, those are kind of harsh words. But we've got to realize this. When Jesus says, none of you can become my disciples if you do not give up all your possessions, I actually think that's very true. And that's something that we've got to think through. See, Jesus doesn't say you can't have these things in your life. What he's trying to say is that you can't become the master of them. You are not the owner of them. It's about recognizing and living in a way where we begin to understand that the possessions in our life are not ours, that God is the owner, but that we are merely stewards and caretakers of them. And if you're in a situation where you like owning stuff, these words can be really hard. Go, oh, I don't like, this is why I don't like going to church. But I will guarantee you, if you can let go of that mentality and begin to realize that none of this stuff we can keep forever. When you die, you're not going to have this stuff. You can't take it with you, right? So if we can begin to understand that we are merely stewards, caretaker of the things in our life, it really sets us free. Let me give you an example. And I try to tell this because we have a lot of young families with kids and stuff like that. Once we can begin to accept that I cannot control my spouse, that I am not the master of him or her, that I am just a steward, a caretaker of God's daughter, God's son. It sets us free, right? When we can begin to realize that I cannot control my child, which I cannot do. They're 24 and 26 now. I'm like, still, when will I be set free? When I can let go of the fact that I do not own them, I can't make them, but my only responsibility is to be the best steward, best caretaker that I can be. It lets me breathe. It sets me free, right? And that's what Jesus is trying to tell his followers. If you follow me, this is what it means. This is what it means. And what we have been seeing is that there is this building up for anybody to understand what it means to follow Jesus. So chapter 14 is dealing with humility, letting some stuff go, and then we come now to chapter 15. Listen for the word of the Lord. Now, all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him, meaning Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." Now, these are probably Pharisees who were sitting with Jesus at that banquet. They were already upset. Now they see him eating with tax collectors and sinners. They're like, what the heck is going on here? So he told them this parable. Which one of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? When he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, "Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost." Just so I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. Or what a woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one of them, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it. When she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost." Just so I tell you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. The word of the Lord. That's also a tradition in the Christian church, kind of responsive reading, right? In chapter 15, Jesus responds to this grumbling group of Pharisees and scribes, and as I said, probably they're really upset now because some of them were with him at that party. He's offended them there, and now he's offending them again. In chapter 15, we see three stories. First one, the shepherd and the lost sheep. Second, the woman and the lost coin. Third one, father and the lost son, which many of us know as the story of the prodigal son. We didn't read that. We read the first two. And within these two stories of the lost sheep and the lost coin, it's possible for us to become sidetracked and getting lost within the story, to think that the story is about the great value of the sheep and the coin. But I think that would be a mistake. The sheep, and when I was preparing this sermon, I said, the sheep, how much is a sheep really worth? So I started looking it up. In Jesus' time, it was worth about 4 to 5 days' wages, which equals to 4 to 5 denarii. And most of us who have read the Bible know that a denarii was a day's wages, right? And in our time, I looked it up. I said, I wonder how much you can buy a sheep for these days. So I Googled it, and it comes out, just a regular sheep. You can buy one for about $200 to $250, right? So anyway, there you go. Silver coin. What's a silver coin? Silver coin, another word for it is a denarii. It was a currency used in that time. It's 1 day's wages, enough to feed one family. That's what the Bible tells us. A denarii was enough to feed one family, just minimal meal. And so then, once again, curious, I looked it up. I said, I wonder what a day's wage is these days. If you go to Home Depot and you pick up a day laborer, how much does that cost? And I started Googling it. I started asking some people. And around here in Seattle, it can go anywhere from $75 to $100 if you give them a little more, maybe. Bellevue. Anybody get a day laborer in Bellevue, East Side? Anybody know how much it is? It's about $100, right? So then I Googled once again, what is it like across the country? And it was, it changes, right? So I said, well, it's probably about $50, right, in our time. So these two stories, I'm thinking, it's really not about the value of these items. The lost sheep or the lost coin, even in our time, Jesus' time, they weren't worth that much. By world standards, they are not the most valuable things. These stories are not about them. Then what is it about? Within these stories, there is another character, which is the one who is searching, the searching owner of these things. A passionate, unrelenting, unstoppable, searching God. A God who will not stop actively and intentionally searching for those who are lost. Right? God, as the shepherd, is willing to leave the 99 sheep in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost. God, as the woman, leaves her 9 coins on the table and searches the whole house, sweeps it, lights a lamp. That's money in Jesus' time, to light a lamp. Sweeps the whole house until that lost coin is found. What we see is that there is no hesitation in the relentless searching by the owner. Why? Because these things are not worth that much. As I mentioned, the sheep and the coin, they've got some value, but not that, right? Not that much. If it's not the world's standard or value of these things, what is it that makes the shepherd and the woman search so relentlessly? I shared, if you've been coming to worship this summer, I shared that this summer I had found my long-lost rubber cargo mat that goes into my SUV. There's a slide there. Let's see if there's a slide. That's what it used to look like, right? It's 2 pieces. There's a small piece there, and then there's a larger piece that fits exactly into my cargo area. Those of you who have minivans or SUVs, you know what I'm talking about, right? It goes like that. And 2 years ago, during our vacation Bible school, I had taken the rubber cargo mat out, left it in the hallway downstairs in the church, and while and lifted up the 3rd seat so I could, drive our kids around all over the place, stuff like that. And then the following after VBS, our youth pack up our VBS and take it to Mattawa, where we run VBS again, and we do other mission projects and stuff like that. And during that week, I realized, hey, where's my cargo mat? Right? It's missing. So when our youth came back from Mattawa, I asked them, I said, hey, by any chance, did you guys take my cargo mat to Mattawa by accident? They're like, no, we didn't do that. We didn't even see your cargo mat. I'm like, all right. Searching the church all over, where I could have left it, nothing. I can't find it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Because this is what my car looks like without the cargo mat, right? It looks weird. So then I try. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it's no big. And my wife's like, Fred, just get over it. It's just a cargo mat. I can't get over it. So then I try this. I put a blue blanket in the cargo area. Okay? But something still doesn't sit right. This looks weird. It's light blue. It works, but it's not right. So then I got something else, which is a furniture blanket that movers you. It still doesn't do it for me. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? For 2 years, there's been, I got to be honest with you, there's been this emptiness in my heart. And I'm like, I can't get over it. And this past summer, I go to Mattawa. And Son and Kate are so gracious in hosting us. And the guys, the youth guys, we're sleeping in this warehouse. And it's awesome. It's an awesome warehouse. Son did actually extra work to prepare the warehouse so we could sleep there. It's air conditioned. It's awesome, right? Restroom, shower. He actually bought campers, so that the girls could sleep in campers. He bought 2 campers that girls could sleep in, and guys are sleeping in the warehouse. It's awesome. It's going well. I'm exhausted. I had just had VBS. Now I'm sleeping with boys in the warehouse. That in itself, I had a great time, but it's tiring. Your kids are tiring. At the dining table, it's just some fold-up tables, and I'm eating, and I'm just resting, and I look across the warehouse, and under all these boxes is an outline of what I think is a cargo mat. And I look over and I'm thinking, that's my cargo mat. And all of a sudden, that's it right there. All of a sudden, literally, I could hear my cargo mat speaking to me. Fred, I'm over here. Please, come and help me. Take me home. Right? So I go over there and I'm moving all these boxes and I lift it up and it's like, I found you. You are mine. I literally was almost crying. I was so excited. You are mine. I have found you. I'm like hugging it. I take it outside. I'm cleaning it, wiping it off, washing it, drying it out. And then I put it in my car. Oh, it fits. There it is, right? You guys are probably thinking what my wife is thinking, which is, Fred, you're crazy. It's just a cargo mat. Let it go. But you know what? It's not worth that much. But when it's yours and it's been missing and you want it and you love it, right? And it just fits so perfectly in my car. You know what I mean? There's a cutout, right? It's got to be that one. Oh, my heart feels so much fuller now that I have that, right? The sheep and the coin are not that valuable by the standards of the world. But because of who owns it, but because of who loves it, right? It is about the owner and how much the owner loves it. The lost coin, the lost sheep, is of the highest value because of the owner. And that's why when Jesus begins to tell these stories, he begins by saying, which one of you? Because all of us have lost something that the world may not value, but is so valuable to us in our life. And Jesus, which one of you, when you've lost something, will not go searching for it? Which one of you, when you've lost something, it leaves a little sense of emptiness in your life? And you will always kind of, yearn for it. Have an empty space for it. When Jesus says this, he means which one of you, if you owned it, loved it, wouldn't go after it, relentlessly search for it until you found it? And that is the heart of God for those who are lost. Many of you may have that feeling, God doesn't love me. It's okay if I just hang back. It's okay if I just kind of live my life in this, in this way, whether it's just in just all of the struggles that you're going through, whether it's in some sadness or whatever. I'm just lost in it. It's okay. I can be in it. But I got to let you know, God loves you so much, right? God is searching for you. And God's not going to stop until God finds you. It's an invitation to all of us to join Jesus as he eats and speaks with those who are lost. Maybe you're one of the lost. Maybe you're not lost, but you can come and join that community to celebrate with him as people come to hear the word and experience the love of God. As the Pharisees and scribes were invited, all of us, we are also invited to that circle. What does this mean in all of us as we follow Jesus? It means all of us. We are called to eat with the lost, to talk with the lost, to celebrate with Jesus as those who once were lost are found. And we have to be, just as God is intentional, we have to be intentional. We here at, I don't know if you guys are familiar with our church, but we here at SCC, we are great at celebrating. We love to eat, right? And that's a big part of celebrating. We've got to keep doing it. When somebody is lost and they're found, we've got to celebrate. When somebody is down, but they're brought back to life, we've got to celebrate. Some people, they will be lost, be found, be lost, and be found, and be lost, and be found. You know what I'm talking about? Those people? Are you one of those people? Every time we've got to celebrate. Every time we've got to celebrate when somebody comes back to the Lord. It's what attracts the lost. It's what attracts and gives strength to other believers, right? Don't worry about whether somebody's found over 100 times. It's okay. It's what attracts believers to join in and be a community that continues to seek out the lost, to pray for the lost. It's an invitation to all of us. And as this story invited the Pharisees and the scribes, I want to invite you guys to a moment of reflection and prayer right now.